there, this is Linda G. Robert, your solution lady, your coach, and your teacher, with a few more tips on how to improve your English. Now, whether you're a teacher or a learner, I think these tips are going to be very useful. I've been teaching English as a second language now for several months, but I do have a background in education and teaching adults. And I know for sure that any adult who wants to learn will be more interested if you focus on him or her or them, their interests. So oftentimes when a student comes up to me on any of the sites that I'm teaching on, I will often ask them what they want to learn, what their interests are. And it isn't just for conversation. I'm actually trying to decide how I can help them. Because if they're interested in knitting, for example, or if they're interested in traveling, for example, whatever they're interested in, I will quickly try to find an article that is discussing their topic of interest. I will often ask them questions to get them to elaborate what their interest is. Of course, the purpose of that is just to engage in conversation. But the idea of expanding vocabulary, I think, is very, it's important to do as well while reading an article. So while we're engaging in a conversation, I'm going to be looking for an article of something they're interested in. Like I just did it now with a student who was interested in Mont Tremblant. She wanted to learn vocabulary that describes traveling. So we talked, we had a conversation around what she did when she went to Mont Tremblant, but then at the same time I was looking for an article that talked about Mont Tremblant. So we read the article and she noticed that there were certain words in that article that described the experience of traveling. And so oftentimes I do look for articles, and you know, when you're working on certain sites, you don't always know the level of the student. It's easy enough to know the level once they start reading and maybe not really understanding what they're reading. Then I'm going to, quickly find another article that might be a lot easier for them. So this part was mostly for teachers. I'm just going to talk to learners now. If you do want to learn English and you want to continue to expand your English, I do suggest that you read things that you're very interested in, but not necessarily read it on your own. I do think it's a great idea to share your reading. Now you might think, oh, it's boring, I don't want to be reading with my tutor, but I think it's a great idea to read with your tutor. Because if you do get stuck on a word, your tutor is there to help you understand what that word is, and might also give you other examples to help you understand how to use that particular word. So that's tip number one, is to read articles, short articles or stories in subjects that you're very interested in. And as well, I think TED Talks are great too. I've looked at a few TED Talks with some of my clients, and it isn't so much to practice listening. Of course, that's important too, but I like the fact that they have the transcript there. So if, for example, you want to practice listening to a person who might be a native speaker but who might have an accent, it would be helpful to find a video or a TED Talk that has a speaker that will use that particular accent. And then if you don't understand what they're saying, open up the transcript and follow along with the transcript. Pause the video, right, so that you can circle that word or note that word and then look it up in the dictionary. I think that's useful as well to do that with a tutor. The other thing I do suggest, and all of my students tell me that, is that they forget their vocabulary. So don't be shy. Review other lessons. I often do that as a teacher. On one of the sites, I'm able to see what the student has done. On the Cambly site, I'm able to see the history of the lessons that that student has done. And oftentimes, because I know that repetition is important, oftentimes I will suggest or invite them to consider doing the same lesson again. And of course, it might be repetition. It might seem kind of boring, but for me it's not, because it's the first time I do that lesson. They might have seen it with another tutor. But it's also because, the teacher itself is very different. We have different styles. So my approach might be very different than another tutor. And I think repetition on top of that is very important as well. And so reviewing past lessons as a teacher and also as a student is very important. And finally, the last tip is to make note of 3 to 5 words that you want to remember, that you really want to focus on remembering, maybe using those words to practice your pronunciation. But I also suggest using those words and creating sentences using those words where you'll be practicing your writing, but also your thinking around that word, because there are many different words that you can use in English. It's not complicated, but if you don't understand what that word means in this particular context, then you're not really going to be able to make full use of that particular vocabulary. So choose 3 to 5 words that you will be looking up and creating sentences. And of course, if you're working with a tutor, bring those words up at the next class. When I work with a student, oftentimes I'll ask them to choose, 3 to 5 words from the lesson, and then we'll start reviewing those 3 to 5 words during the next class, and we'll discuss them, and then we'll go into, the next lesson. So I hope that you've had a chance to practice your English, whether you're a teacher or whether you're learning English. I hope that you continue to practice because that's the only way you're going to get better. As a teacher, I'm continuing to practice, and it's the only way that I'm going to get better. I really listen to my students. I truly want to help them. And of course, the course that I'm finishing up on teaching English as a foreign language is also very, very helpful. Now, if you're a student, be persistent, continue to learn, continue to practice. And if it doesn't work with one tutor, try again with another tutor. Sometimes you just connect with one tutor and you don't with another one. No problem. It's about you learning and capitalizing on the moment that you have with that tutor. So this is Linda G. Robert, your solution lady, your coach, and your teacher, with some more tips on helping you either teach or helping you learn how to improve your English. For more information on my services, you can contact me at my website, www.lindagrobert.com. Now note, I don't have a lot of information on my website, but that's because I also specialize in wellness, stress management, and I also offer coaching on various topics. But one thing that I do want to offer you if you are learning English as a second language is to practice your interviewing skills. So that's something you'll see on my website. I was also an employment consultant, and I am definitely in a position to help you prepare for your job search and help you prepare for your interviews. So if you are a teacher and you need help with that, look me up, no problem. I can help you with a small fee. And if you're a learner and you want to practice for your interviewing skills and you want to know how to make your resume stand out in English, look me up for a small fee, no problem. I'm willing to help you with that as well. You can also send me an email at teacherlindagr@gmail.com, and I'll put that in the video. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.